Hello, Divine Ones. It's your girl, Nerese, and welcome back to the House of Divinity. When you're an eccentric person with your own sense of style, beliefs, talents, flaws, and a mysterious cosmic energy, you are often misunderstood. We realize it's okay if we didn't fit into other solar systems because we were supposed to create our own. We will find and build a tribe of like-minded individuals. So, to the divine ones out there, welcome to the House of Divinity. So, as you may know through browsing some of the content on my page, I do love to kiki and talk about the music industry and art through music and film and stuff like that. But something that's equally as important to me as art is motivation and empowerment. So, like anybody who's ever dealt with anything, I've dealt with adversity in my life and struggles and trials and tribulations, darling. And something that's always been important to me in getting through that process is being mindful of the content that I watch and what I listen to, and just being around people and places and things that are empowering and that motivate you when you're down. And so I went through an experience where I was just, I went from having this great social life, being friends with many people and all these spaces and places, and then just this snowball effect of bridges burnt and, just like social anxiety and resentment and shame and guilt and just all of these things. And there were times where that huge group of friends just kind of dwindled to a very small support system. And I'm extremely grateful for that support system. But even through that experience, it felt as though like I felt misunderstood and just like I was kind of alone in my experience. But even in feeling alone in my experience, I know I wasn't alone in the experience of adversity and going through hard times and needing a pick-me-up. And so there were times where I had to be my own coach and my own cheerleader and therapist and motivational speaker and life coach and all those things, and if I couldn't be that for myself, then Lisa Nichols was, or Les Brown, or Eric Thomas. And, a lot of those people helped me get out of my depression. And, I wanted to present content in that way for a different demographic, just because you don't see a lot of young people, of course, because they say you ain't never been through nothing. But sometimes you kind of need that gap of someone to fill that gap and kind of speak from that experience, because I'm only 26 and people go through things. Sometimes you go through things at 5-6 years old, and if you're in a space to heal through that and grow through that and you can help other people, then that adds to the purpose. And so for me, as much as I love music and as much as I love singing and entertaining, I also want to inspire and motivate as well, just because I know that's what helped me, and I know through motivating others it can help someone else. So with that said, this particular segment within the House of Divinity is called Empowerment Tea. So I didn't make any tea this time, but I think I might do that. But the whole purpose is, how we like to spill the tea on the drama or gossip and all that stuff. And I'm not gonna lie, I enjoy a little tea from time to time, but I feel like there should be a balance of, as much as we like the You know, the celebrity tea is my personal thing, but empowerment tea. And with that said, the particular type of empowerment tea that we will be receiving today is a short series on the difference between self-love and self-care. So to me, I feel as though the difference between self-love and self-care is self-love more so being the feeling of love, and self-care being the action of love for oneself. And I wanted to break that down for the body, the mind, and the soul. So in this particular video, we will be discussing self-love for the mind. And then we'll talk about for the body and the soul. And then we'll do another series talking about self-care for the body, mind, and soul. So let's get into it. So I feel as though within the last few years, there's been more of a discussion and a light shown on mental health. Whereas that's been a taboo thing in the past, especially within the Black community. And from my own personal experience, I've dealt with depression and anxiety and paranoia. And within my family, there's also been situations of mental health with my mother, where she developed a mental illness during the time when I was like in middle school, like very young. So I've had my fair share in that experience. What I feel like as individuals, what we don't do enough is highlight loving our mind. You know, there's a lot of talk about the body and having insecurities about how we feel about our body, which we will talk about. But no one really discusses having love for our mind, you know? And even if you're experiencing something like depression or anxiety or anything even more severe than that, you know, our mind is a very important part of what operates our body in this physical experience, you know? Our mind is what processes our thoughts and how we interact with people and how we receive information and internalize it. And me being an Aquarius, you know, which is an air sign. And air signs are known to be like people who are very observant and very mental people, you know, in a good way. You know, we're very much in our mind, we're very logical. We observe and analyze things. And I would say at one point in my life, I was very much like that. And more logical than I was emotional. And granted, I feel like my upbringing kind of like helped with that because I like grew up with guys. So I felt like that also assisted into me being more logical than emotional, but also me being an Aquarius and just how I like see things. And I'm always like dreaming big, and I have this wild imagination. So with that, as we grow older, we have these experiences where we start to doubt ourselves and think maybe we might be thinking too big or thinking too small, or, you know, what's perceived as smart for a certain group of people. If you don't know a certain thing, then you might not be considered smart, or maybe you have a particular way of learning a thing. Everybody has their own form of their level of a genius at what they do. And I feel like the important thing is not getting so wrapped up in negative self-talk if we don't fit into a certain mold, or if we don't relate to a certain norm. And a lot of times as people, it's easier for us to think negative thoughts about ourselves than we do positive. So I wanted to drop some tips on ways to shift your mind and think positive thoughts versus negative ones. So the first thing is, how do you think about your mind? Like, how do you usually think? You know, like, do you normally think negative thoughts? Do you normally think positive thoughts? Or is there a mix? You know, just taking a moment and taking some time to really like go about your day and think about like, how does my mind think? You know, like if you're doing something and, you know, and you mess up at something, do you like talk down on yourself, or do you talk, big yourself up? Or, do you give yourself grace even if you make a mistake and you're like, okay, I messed up here, all right, we'll do better next time. And I know me personally, this is something that I'm so actively working on, but I'm a lot better at thinking about the things that I used to be so self-conscious about. And I used to ruminate on these negative thoughts and just think like, oh, I'm a bad person. Oh, I made these mistakes. I've done this. I've done that. But then I'll catch myself and I'll say, Nerese, you're doing it. You're ruminating. Cut it out and flip it to the positive. So for example, say if I forgot to clean my room a day that I said I was going to clean my room, right? And then I'll maybe beat myself up about it and say, oh my gosh, I didn't do it this day. I said I was going to do it. But I'm like, hold on, Reese, stop for a moment. Okay? And think, yeah, you might not have cleaned it that day, but the weeks prior, you've been consistent about cleaning it. So celebrate yourself on that win. Yeah, sure, you might have slipped on this day, but now you recognize it. Now let's do better the next time. And so that's what I would do for myself, is I'll catch myself in a negative thought and flip it to the positive. Oftentimes we get stuck on the negatives of the past, and it's easy to think of the past because those are legit experiences that we've had. And oftentimes it can be challenging to think of the future because it hasn't happened yet. But that's when you have to tap into your creativity and open your mind and allow yourself to imagine things that you've never seen before. And the best way that I do this is looking up content on YouTube, so whereas I might be self-conscious about a behavior that I might have had, then what I'll do is like, okay, what does the new behavior look like and who's good at it, and so I'll look up different things of people who are living that lifestyle or doing a particular action that I'm working towards, so I can see what it looks like in real time. Because God bless YouTube and being alive in this era, because some people couldn't do this back in the day. In the medieval times, they didn't have no YouTube to look up a life of luxury or lifestyles of successful people. We have these outlets now, so YouTube University is everything. But then also like Pinterest and stuff like that, like having a space that can create the image of what you want to see for yourself and want to see for your mind, so you can shift how you think about a mistake or shift how you think about a past thing or something negative, and think about the positive and think about the times that you did do right and the times where you did good. You know what I mean? So you're not so caught up on that negative, and you're opening your mind and shifting your frame of thought to where you want it to be versus something that's not conducive to your growth. Number 2, pretty much going off of what I was saying before, is, spending time thinking about the new thing, so say you might ruminate on a past experience that might have been traumatic for you, and you might feel guilt or resentment. Taking time to either meditate or visualize the opposite outcome. So say, for example, say I was walking in high heels thinking I was cute, I was the baddest thing, and then I tripped in my heels, right? And so instead of constantly thinking like, daggone, I was looking so good that day, I done tripped in my heels, oh my gosh. Something that also what I do is kind of meditating on that moment and thinking like, okay, was I walking the wrong way? Are these shoes comfortable for me? Maybe I should wear a different pair of shoes. And thinking like, okay, what is the solution for this thing? But then also something that helps me turn the negative to a positive, even if it's something like an experience that you are having a hard time like running away from, because you can't forget your memories, and your experience is your experience. But something that I often do as well as like visualizing the outcome that I would have wanted, but a lot of times I try to find the funny in the moment, right? So say if something happens, like, okay, like honestly, personally, if I were to trip in some heels and I was looking fabulous, I would laugh at myself, just because like you know, it happens to everybody. You know, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody isn't perfect and flawless. You know what I mean? Find the funny in it rather than harping on the embarrassment or say the guilt or whatever the case. Even though that's a very trivial experience. But even something that's more serious or more traumatic, it might be harder to do, but I throw it out there for you to try to find the funny in it. Try to find, you know, something to shift the memory from being something that stirs up anger and shift it to be something that where you be like, oh my God, that shit was so crazy back in the day. You know, and just find a way to laugh at it, because how you think about your life and how you perceive your reality is the biggest part in whether you find happiness and ultimately have love for yourself, because you can't change the past, but you can change how you see it. So now, with that said, I leave you with my last tip, which is to be grateful for your mind. So, like I said in the beginning, your mind is a very valuable and vital part to how you operate in this physical world. And I don't think we take time to really appreciate it and have love for our mind and appreciate, you know, the job that it does. And there might be times where it might not do the perfect job, or you might mess up, or, you know, you might think a negative thought, or you might not have been as sharp in a certain moment that you wish you would have been, or you know, you might make a mistake or say the wrong thing or say something and you can easily tell yourself, oh damn, I was stupid for that, or I messed up here. I don't think we thank our minds enough. So just having a moment to just be, you know, I'm grateful for my mind. I'm grateful for my brain. I'm grateful for how I see things. I'm grateful for my ability to shift the negative to a positive. I'm grateful for this muscle that operates my body and allows me to think and allows me to grow and allows me to learn in this physical experience. So that is it for our empowerment tea. I hope this message resonates with you. Let me know what tips that you enjoyed the most in the comments below. If you have any tips or suggestions that's helped you shape and evolve and build your mind and ultimately create self-love for your mind. It's your girl Reese, Mother Nerese, and I'm signing out.